Can you come so we can go? That was the sentence that cracked something open inside him. Andrew stood still, not because he didn't hear her, but because her silence spoke louder than the words he'd waited days to hear. The compound was quiet, except for the distant hum of Port Harcourt traffic and the occasional squawk of a restless bird overhead. The air smelled of roasted fish from a vendor down the street, thick and smoky, clinging to his skin. The setting sun painted everything gold, the walls, the gravel, even the hurt on his face. And in the center of it all stood Adana, a vision in a yellow dress that caught the light just right. Hair pulled back, earrings delicate. The picture of poise. But her eyes didn't meet his. They flicked briefly toward Andrew, toward the plain white t-shirt that had seen too many washes, the faded jeans, the scuffed sneakers. And then, just as quickly, her gaze turned away. Turned toward a man who stood by a gleaming Bentley, navy cap and brushing against polished shoes, red cap balanced neatly on his head like a crown. The man leaned casually against the luxury car, like it was his birthright. And when he looked at Adana, he did it like she was the only woman on earth. "Who is he to you?" he asked her, nodding in Andrew's direction. Adana didn't blink. She straightened a wrinkle on her dress, lifted her chin, and spoke words that fell like a guillotine. "He's my janitor. Ignore his talk." Just like that. Andrew's heart didn't break. No, it collapsed inward like a house with rotten beams. Quietly, slowly, completely. He didn't yell, didn't accuse, didn't ask why. He just blinked. Once, then again, as if that might erase what she'd said. Or maybe replay it, just to make sure he'd heard correctly. The Bentley's door opened with a soft, expensive click. Adana moved like someone stepping into her destiny, slid into the passenger seat with grace, crossed her legs at the ankle, placed her handbag gently on her lap. Her mouth almost smiled, just a tiny twitch in the corner. Andrew took one step forward, then another. His hands trembled, but he kept them low, calm, steady. He tapped on the window, not hard, just enough. The man inside pressed a button. The glass lowered. Andrew leaned slightly toward the opening. "Good evening," he said. His voice was like always, gentle, unassuming. The man in the red cap turned his head toward Adana. "Step down for a moment," he said, voice smooth. "Let's clear something first." Adana hesitated for a second, annoyed. Then she opened the door and stepped out, arms folded, expression sharp. "Why are you blocking my chance?" she hissed. "Why do you always show up when something good is about to happen for me?" Andrew said nothing. "You're poor, Andrew. I've tried to see past it. I've been nice. I even came to see your apartment. But I can't lie to myself forever. You have nothing to offer, and I'm not going to let pity keep me from my future." Silence swallowed the compound. The man by the Bentley watched her, then turned back to Andrew. The change in his posture was subtle, like a soldier standing at ease, suddenly switching to salute. "Good evening, sir," he said. Adana's head snapped toward him. "What did you just call him?" The man nodded, calm as still water. "Sir." Adana stared. Confused, angry, laughing, but it didn't sound like a laugh. More like disbelief clinging to her pride. No, he's just Andrew," she said too loudly. "He carries files, runs errands. I know where he lives, one room with cracked tiles. I saw it with my own eyes." The man didn't respond. Instead, he turned back to Andrew, and something in that silence felt like a door closing. "Adana," the man said at last, his voice calm. "Do you know who this man is?" She tried to scoff. "Yes, he's a junior staff." "That's it." "No," the man said, shaking his head slowly, like he was disappointed she hadn't done the math. "This man is Andrew Johnson, CEO of Andrew, the company you work for, the billionaire you never imagined could walk beside you without shine." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Andrew finally met her eyes. His were steady, not angry, just emptied out. "I gave you my trust," he said quietly. "And in a heartbeat, you threw me away." Adana's world tilted. She staggered slightly backward, lips trembling. Then, as if her knees could no longer carry the weight of her mistake, she fell. Dust rose around her as her knees hit the ground. "Andrew," her voice cracked. "I didn't know. I thought, oh God, I thought you were just some guy. I didn't see. I didn't know." Tears slipped from her eyes, not the elegant kind, but the kind that drag regret behind them like chains. I was blind, she sobbed. Please, I was scared. I've been broken before. I just wanted something sure, something safe. I thought money meant safety. Andrew didn't speak. He turned, walked back into the small apartment, and came out a few minutes later holding a simple leather bag. Not hurried, not cruel, just finished. Without a word, he opened the back door of the Bentley and slid inside. The man in the red cap followed. The engine purred to life. Adana stumbled to her feet. She ran beside the car, hands banging against the window. Andrew, please, don't go. Don't let this be the end. But the Bentley pulled away, its red tail lights glowing like judgment against the dusk. Adana fell again. The dust didn't care. It stuck to her knees anyway. Her cries echoed down the quiet street as neighbors peered out from their windows. Somewhere a dog barked. A baby cried. Life moved on, but not her. Inside the Bentley, Andrew stared out the window. His fists were tight, his jaw tighter. But his mind was spinning in silence. He had loved her, believed in her, hoped she would be different. Now he wasn't sure love existed at all. And yet, even as the city passed by in blurred lights and dark corners, another voice whispered inside him, quiet and dangerous. What if she really could change? Adana didn't sleep. She didn't even lie down. She sat on the edge of her bed for hours, unmoving, her hands locked together in her lap. The fan above made a soft, lazy whirring noise. Somewhere outside, a goat cried in the dark. She couldn't get his face out of her head, or the way he didn't fight back. He didn't argue. He just looked at her like she had turned to smoke in front of him. Ignore his talk. He's my janitor. The words echoed, circled back, punched her from behind every few minutes. They didn't sound like her voice anymore. They sounded like someone she didn't know. It had happened so fast. The Bentley, the man in the navy blue cabin, the offer of wealth, the future she always dreamed of, wrapped in leather seats and shiny metal. She had looked at Andrew and seen nothing. That was the truth. In that moment, she had chosen the car, the man, the money, and now she wanted to take it all back. She lowered her head and covered her face. Her chest hurt. Her eyes were raw from crying. But no matter how much she wept, it didn't change anything. In the morning, she didn't shower, didn't eat. She opened her laptop and typed a resignation letter with shaking fingers. I am sorry. I cannot continue. Please accept this as my resignation. She clicked send, then stared at the screen until it went black. Back in Lagos, Andrew was already home. He had arrived that morning in silence. No team, no assistant. He told the pilot to land without ceremony. No driver, no calls. He walked into his mansion like a man returning from a funeral. Sat in his study, the walls too quiet, the leather chair too cold. The skyline outside blinked through the glass, but he didn't look at it. He just sat, elbow on the desk, hand over his mouth. He had known betrayal before. Juliet taught him how deep it could cut. 2 days before their wedding, she disappeared with $500,000 and his favorite car. She knew every password, every bank account. She had smiled while bleeding him dry. He thought he'd grown smarter after that. Apparently not. Jonathan came in around 6. Always careful, always dressed like the boardroom never ended. He carried a phone in his hand. She sent another message, he said. Andrew didn't lift his head. Delete it. Jonathan didn't move. I think you should read this one. Andrew took the phone with no real interest. He wasn't expecting anything new. Just more apologies, trying to reshape the truth. But this one was different. Since I made that mistake, I've not known peace. The shame eats at me. I can't undo what I said, but I'm begging. Not for another chance, just for forgiveness. Please let me breathe again. It was short, not dramatic. No promises, no manipulation. Just broken words from someone who sounded like they didn't know who they were anymore. Andrew put the phone down, then picked it up again. He read the message twice more, then leaned back and stared at the ceiling. He didn't want to respond, but he didn't want to ignore it either. Across the city, Adana sat on the floor. Her apartment was quiet except for the fridge humming unevenly. Her phone was in her lap. She didn't expect him to reply. She only hoped Jonathan would read it. That maybe, through him, her words would reach the man she'd hurt. She had stopped eating, deleted her social media, stopped answering calls. She couldn't face the world. Not her colleagues. Not the office she had walked into with her head held high, pretending to be someone she wasn't. Everything in her life felt cheap now. Her clothes, her perfume, even her reflection. She hated mirrors. They didn't lie. That night, as rain tapped softly against her window, she wrote again. No plan, no filter, just one line that fell out of her like a confession. Andrew, I'm not asking for love. I'm not asking for wealth. I'm only asking for forgiveness. Please, so I can forgive myself. Jonathan saw it, and this time he didn't hesitate. He walked straight into the study, held out the phone again. She wrote this, he said. Andrew read it. Slowly. There was nothing clever in the message. No angle. Just a person drowning in the shame of what they'd done. For a while, he said nothing. Then he picked up his own phone. Adana almost dropped hers when it rang. She stared at the screen like it was lying to her. Andrew calling. Her fingers trembled as she pressed accept. Hello. Her voice came out thin. Scared. A pause. Then his voice. Steady. Measured. Adana, if you're truly sorry, if you're ready to start from scratch, as if none of this ever happened, then come a Lagos tomorrow. She froze. I've booked a flight for you, he continued. Your ticket is waiting at the counter. You'll find it under your name. She choked on her own breath. Yes, I'll come. I swear. Good, he said. Then we'll talk. The line went dead, but her world came back to life. The next morning, she packed a small bag. Just clothes. No makeup. No high heels. She tied her hair back and boarded the flight with a heart pounding so loud she couldn't hear anything else. When she landed in Lagos and the mansion gates opened, her knees almost buckled. She had seen rich people on Instagram, on TV, but this wasn't Instagram. This was marble floors that echoed, walls that breathed money, a fountain at the entrance that looked like it had its own budget. And then he appeared, standing in the doorway in a simple white shirt. No smile, no expression, just watching. She dropped her bag, then dropped to her knees. Andrew, she said, barely able to speak. I'm sorry. I was blind. Please forgive me. He didn't answer right away. He just looked at her like he was trying to see something beneath her face. Something real. Finally, he stepped forward and pulled her gently to her feet. Everyone makes mistakes, he said, but not everyone owns them. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. He didn't embrace her. He didn't smile, but he didn't close the door either. And for now, that was enough. The night in Andrew's mansion felt colder than it looked. It was too perfect, polished floors that didn't creak, windows that didn't let in sound. Adana sat on the edge of a soft, expensive couch, unsure if she should even lean back. Her fingers kept folding into themselves in her lap. Andrew sat opposite her. Not far, but not close either. He held a glass of water, swirling it slowly, not drinking. They hadn't said much since she arrived. It was an awkward silence. It was loaded. She finally spoke, voice low, careful. Thank you for letting me come. Andrew said nothing. He set the glass down on the table with a soft click, then leaned back. His shirt was crisp, sleeves rolled up to his elbows. He looked at her the way someone looks at a street they've driven before. The same route, but searching for new danger. You must understand something, he said. Letting you come doesn't mean I've forgiven you. It only means I want to know if there's anything left to salvage. Adana lowered her head. I know. My past is full of broken trust, he continued. Juliet lied to my face while planning to rob me blind. And you, he stopped for a moment. You hurt me differently. No theft. No scam. You just made it clear I was invisible without my money. I didn't mean to, but you did. Her mouth opened, closed again. She had no defense. Not anymore. Andrew stood and walked toward the balcony. The city lights of Lagos stretched beyond the glass like restless fireflies. He folded his arms, not looking back. You said you want to start over. She nodded. I do. Then here's how we start. You will not live here like a guest. Tomorrow morning, you report to Andrew headquarters. You'll work as a lead data analyst. Same job, different office, different pressure. She blinked. He turned slightly toward her. There will be whispers, he said. People know. They saw the footage. They heard what happened in Port Harcourt. Some of them want you to fail. I don't care what they want, she said quietly. I only care about proving I'm not the same woman anymore. Andrew didn't smile, but he gave a short nod, like an agreement signed in silence. Then prove it. The next morning, Adana stood in front of the headquarters building in Victoria Island. The glass gleamed like a warning. Every step toward the door felt like walking into a courtroom. Inside, everything was quiet, controlled. Wealth moved differently here. Nobody shouted. Nobody ran. And almost no one looked at her until they did. The whispers began halfway to her office. Isn't that the girl? The one who called the CEO her janitor? What's she doing here? She's lucky she wasn't fired. She didn't look back. She entered the office assigned to her, a sharp, sterile room with 2 monitors and a view of the city. She sat down and logged in, hands shaking. By noon, her palms were sweating. By 2 p.m., she forgot to eat. She worked like someone trying to outrun her past. Double-checked every figure. Reviewed every chart. Her eyes were sore, but she didn't blink too much. Not in this place. She left the office at 9 p.m. The sky was already dark. Her legs were sore. Her heart ached, but it was a clean kind of pain, the kind that meant she was still trying. At home, Andrew noticed. He read the reports. Quietly, watched her progress without saying much. Every day, she left early. Returned late. She didn't ask for anything. Not a driver, not new clothes, not praise. She stayed quiet, humble, focused. Jonathan noticed it too. She's working like she owes the company her life, he said one evening. She probably thinks she does, Andrew replied. A week passed, then another, then a month, and Adana didn't stop. Even when a group of senior analysts tried to bait her during a presentation, undermining her numbers, smirking when she spoke, she held her ground. Not with pride, with calm. She corrected one of them without raising her voice, even added a joke. And when the room finally nodded in agreement, she didn't smile like she won. She just returned to her chair and kept working. That night, Andrew waited on the balcony. Same spot, same glass of water. She joined him after dinner. Quiet, cautious. I heard about the meeting, he said without turning. You handled it well. She didn't pretend to be surprised he knew. Thank you. They stood in silence for a moment. Legos glittered below, like someone had scattered stars across the ground. Why are you really here, Adana? Andrew asked finally. Is this guilt? Is it just shame and survival? Or do you still think there's something between us? She turned to face him fully. I'm here because I couldn't live with what I did, she said. But that's not the only reason I stayed. He looked at her. I'm not chasing your money. I'm not here for another test. I'm here because even when I failed you, you didn't destroy me. You gave me a door, and I walked through it. I want to keep walking. Andrew didn't respond right away. He just watched her, quiet, studying. You're different from before, he said finally. I have to be. He nodded once, and for the first time since Port Harcourt, he looked at her without armor. The next day, he made a choice. He invited her to join him on a business trip to Abuja. Not for pleasure, not as a couple, but as a colleague. This is a high-level contract, he said. Foreign investors. Big pressure. I need someone who understands the numbers, not the noise. I can handle it, she replied. The flight was private, quiet. Adana sat beside him, nervous but composed. She wore a simple gown, no flashy jewelry. Her nails weren't even done. Other passengers whispered, curious, is that her? Andrew brought her here. Interesting choice. She ignored all of it. At the hotel, she moved like someone who didn't belong, but refused to apologize for being there. In the meeting room, when Andrew nodded to her, she stood up and presented without stuttering. Clear, sharp, calm. She broke down the numbers in ways the investors hadn't expected. When the meeting ended, 2 of them approached her, not Andrew, with direct compliments. Later that night, in the hallway, Andrew turned to her. You did well. She exhaled slowly. Thank you. He didn't smile, but his eyes were warmer. Back in their suite, she didn't touch the minibar, didn't check out the closet, didn't pose for a photo. She just took off her shoes and sat near the window, staring out at the Abuja skyline. Andrew watched her from across the room. She looked small, but not weak. Not anymore. Still, he couldn't stop the voice in the back of his head. How long will this last? He shook it off. Not tonight. He went to bed. And for the first time in months, he slept without waking at 3 a.m. Andrew didn't speak for 3 days after Abuja. He didn't ignore Adana. He watched her, closely, at work, at home, the way she moved through silence, the way she answered when spoken to. Not small, not submissive, but careful. Everything in her had sharpened. She laughed less. She argued less. But she worked harder than anyone around her. No makeup. No shortcuts. She didn't ask for favors. Didn't ask for forgiveness either. Only chances. And she used every one of them like someone who knew there wouldn't be another. Jonathan noticed. She hasn't touched her office allowance since she started, he said, dropping a report on Andrew's desk. Andrew didn't look up. I know. You think she's performing? I think she's trying. But is it real? Andrew closed the folder and looked out the window. I don't know yet. The invitation arrived 2 days later. Andert's annual black and white gala. One of the biggest corporate events of the year. High-level investors, politicians, executives, foreign press. The kind of night where reputations moved quietly behind smiles and handshakes. Andrew had skipped it the year before. This year he accepted, and he invited Adana. He handed her the envelope himself. If you come, he said, understand this won't be a warm room. She didn't flinch. I know. People will talk. They already do. They'll whisper your name with every fake smile they give me. I'm used to whispers. Andrew paused. You still want to go? She looked at him. I need to. The night of the gala, Adana stood at the top of the staircase inside the mansion, dressed in a gown she didn't choose. Midnight blue. Tailored. Modest but striking. A stylist had come earlier, sent by Andrew's assistant. Adana hadn't asked for it, but she didn't reject it either. Her hair was pulled into a low bun. No earrings. No necklace. Just a silver watch on her wrist. She looked at herself in the mirror for a long time before walking down. Andrew was already waiting by the car. He didn't say anything when he saw her. Just nodded. She nodded back. They drove in silence. The gala was held in a glass hall overlooking the city. Music played soft jazz. Crystal lights hung like stars. Everyone was dressed in shades of black, silver, or white. Photographers lined the entrance, cameras flashing. When Andrew stepped out of the car, people turned. When Adana stepped out behind him, they stared. The whispers started before they entered the hall. That's her. Port Harcourt. The janitor girl. Why would he bring her here? Publicity stunt. She must be good at something. Adana heard it all. She didn't flinch. Inside, the crowd moved like water. Businessmen with wives they barely touched. Women with wine glasses and frozen smiles. Politicians. Billionaires. Everyone pretending. Andrew moved through them with ease. Adana followed, a step behind. She didn't speak unless spoken to. She didn't reach for his hand. She didn't drink. She knew the room wasn't here to welcome her. It was here to watch her fail. They lasted 40 minutes before Juliet arrived. Dressed in gold. Slim, tall, loud. A woman who had once taken Andrew's ring, his money, his car, and vanished. Her laugh was designed to be heard. She walked straight to them, holding a flute of champagne. Well, well, she said. Andrew Johnson, still the humanitarian. I see you brought your second rescue case. Andrew said nothing. Juliet turned to Adana, smirking. You clean up better than I expected. Adana kept her face still. And you don't change at all. Juliet's smirk faltered for a half-second. Careful, darling, she said, her voice lower. This world eats girls like you. They'll smile to your face, then crush your name on the way out. Adana leaned in just enough. Good thing I stopped caring about faces. Juliet raised her glass. Good luck. Then she turned and disappeared into the crowd. Andrew watched her go, then looked at Adana. Her jaw was tight, but she was steady. Do you want to leave? He asked. No, she said. Not yet. He stepped away briefly to speak to an investor from Dubai. When he returned, she was gone. He scanned the room, found her near the far wall, speaking to a man in a white igbada and oxblood loafers. Chief Dare, old money, oil, known predator, twice divorced, rich enough to ignore consequences. Andrew moved closer, slowly, watching. Chief Dare smiled as he spoke. You've done well for yourself, he said to Adana. Impressive recovery. Thank you, she replied coolly. But let's not lie, he continued, voice silk. You're not built for that world. Andrew is dangerous. His heart is full of locks. His mind is never with you. You'll never be more than the girl who got lucky. Adana stared at him. He stepped closer. I can give you peace. Real peace. Money without conditions. A life where no one waits for you to fall just to say, I told you so. Come with me instead. Adana blinked slowly, then tilted her head. I know who you are, Chief Dare. He smiled wider. Do you? You offered my friend a job once. She said no. You ruined her name. His eyes narrowed slightly. I'm not her, Adana said, and I'm not yours. She turned away. Andrew was there. He didn't say anything. She looked up at him. Are we done here? She asked. He nodded. Let's go. They walked out of the ballroom without looking back. The air outside was cooler. No cameras. No eyes. Just streetlight and silence. They stood by the car. Andrew spoke first. Why didn't you take his offer? Adana looked at him like he'd asked why she was breathing. Because I'm already where I choose to be. He nodded, looked at her for a long moment, then opened the car door for her. When they got home, she didn't cry, didn't collapse. She walked upstairs, took off her dress, tied her hair, washed her face, and sat by the window in silence. Andrew entered the room 20 minutes later. He held something in his hand, a black velvet box. He sat across from her, opened it. No kneeling, no speech, just the ring. Simple, clear, certain. I don't care what the world says, he told her. I care what I've seen. Her hands trembled as she took it. She didn't cry, just whispered yes. He took her hand, slid the ring onto her finger. No crowd, no applause, only quiet. Only two people, side by side, finally facing the world on their own terms. The wedding was loud. Not the music, not the speeches. The noise was in the eyes of the guests. She saw it on their faces. Rich men sipping wine, women with perfect makeup whispering into crystal glasses. They didn't clap for love. They clapped because they wanted to see what would go wrong first. Adana walked the aisle anyway. Straight, silent, chin level. She didn't smile. She didn't pretend to be a fairy tale bride. Andrew waited calm. Black suit, no bow tie. His hands folded in front of him like a man signing a deal he'd already considered from every angle. When they stood under the arch, the officiator asked, Do you, Andrew? Yes. He didn't wait. And you, Adana? I do. That was it. No vows. No promises. Just a contract between two people who had already broken, already tested, already bled. She didn't cry. He didn't kiss her hard. They just turned to face the crowd together and walked forward into the part no one ever wants to film. Real life. The first year, they moved quietly. No lavish honeymoon. No brand deals. No interviews. She went back to work at Andert after 2 weeks. No PR announcement. She wore flat shoes and carried her own laptop. She didn't take the executive office he offered. I'll earn my chair, she said. Andrew didn't argue, but he watched her closely. She didn't try to be liked. She tried to be precise. Her reports were clean, her presentations sharp, and slowly, grudgingly, respect started to return. Not because people forgot poor Harcourt, but because she gave him nothing new to talk about. At home, she cooked. Nothing fancy. One night, he came home to boiled yam and pepper sauce. She said, If you want caviar, call the chef. He said, This tastes better. They didn't talk about the past often. But sometimes, in the middle of a quiet night, he'd say things like, I still don't know if I was testing you, or trying to get revenge for Juliet. And she'd answer honestly, You were doing both, and I failed both. But she stayed, and he let her. The second year, she got pregnant. Unexpected, unplanned. 2 pink lines on a plastic stick in a marble bathroom. Andrew sat in silence for 10 minutes after she told him, then just said, All right, let's prepare. They didn't post the news. No baby showers. No gender reveal. She kept working until her 7th month. Gave birth in a private wing with no photographers and no visitors. A boy. They named him Sam. She held him first. Andrew sat in the corner of the room, staring, hands shaking. When a nurse handed him the baby, he said nothing for the first full minute, then whispered, I don't know if I'm built to be a father. She looked at him. You weren't built to be anything. You learned everything the hard way. This is just one more thing. And that's how they started. One diaper at a time. The third year, Andrew watched her raise their son with more discipline than softness. She wasn't warm. She was focused. Timelines, bottles, sleep tracking. But at night, when Sam cried, she was always the first to get up. He watched her one night, holding Sam to her chest in the hallway. She was barefoot, half asleep, whispering, "It's okay. I'm here. You're not alone." And Andrew thought, "Neither am I." He never said it. He just walked over, took the baby from her, and said, "Go lie down." She nodded. "No, thank you." No speech. Just trust. Real. Heavy. Earned. The fourth year, they visited Port Harcourt. For closure. The compound was still there. Same gate. Same gravel. Same building with a rusty water tank behind. Adana stood where it happened. Where she said it. "He's my janitor." She didn't cry. Andrew didn't speak. Sam sat in the back seat of the SUV, chewing on a plastic spoon. Adana stepped forward, touched the gate with her hand. "I died here," she said quietly. "That version of me." Andrew stood beside her. "You're not her anymore. I still have her scars." "Good. Scars are maps." She turned, met his eyes. "Do you still test me?" He didn't lie. "Every day." She nodded. "Then I'll keep passing." They left without looking back. The fifth year, Adana took a promotion. Not from Andrew. From the board. She was now director of data operations for Ander West Africa. Her first meeting in the new role, a junior manager asked, "How should we handle cross-regional validation?" She looked at him calmly. "The same way I handled being wrong in public. With structure and proof." No one laughed. Because she wasn't joking. Andrew didn't attend the meeting. He was in Ghana, finalizing a deal. But when he got the summary email, he read it 3 times. Then forwarded it to Jonathan with one line. "She's become more than I hoped." Now, they live in Lekki, in a house with 3 balconies and a view of the sea. No chefs. No nannies. No parties every week. Andrew still wakes early. Adana still sleeps lightly. Sam is 4 now. He runs through the hallway with a toy truck, shouting, "Data." Not because he knows what it means, but because he hears his mother say it on the phone so often. Andrew laughs when he hears it. Adana rolls her eyes but smiles. They still argue. About stupid things, wet towels, missed calls, too much screen time. But no one leaves the room anymore. No one walks out. They don't need to say, "I love you," every day. They say it by staying, by showing up, by not quitting. And for them, that's everything. If this story moved you, please like, comment, share, and follow for more. Somewhere out there, someone needs to hear this. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's them. Let it reach.